Disability Inclusion with me, Jennifer Oho. All right, at exactly this time last week, on the 25th of February, the whole of Nigeria was at ease where we get to vote the president and it was the National Assembly election as well. And on this edition of the program, we would like to bring you the Presidential and National Assembly election, persons with disability participation, the challenges and recommendation. Yes, and we have our guest, Ambassador Jake Epele, the CEO and founder of TAF Africa, and also the Assistant Program Manager, George Awai, as our guest for today. We are talking about the preparedness of the Association of Persons with Disabilities towards an inclusive general election. Still, we will be appraising the election that happened last week on the 25th of February. That's the 2023 Presidential and National Assembly election, the participation of persons with disabilities during the election, the turnout, the challenges they encountered, and of course, some recommendations, especially for INEC. Now, the 2023 Presidential and National Assembly election, which was held on the 25th of February 2023, met lots of loopholes, especially regarding the participation of persons with disabilities. So, despite the preparations made ahead of this made ahead to smoothing the participation of persons with disabilities, the data received in TAP Africa's Persons with Disabilities Election Hub from field observers showed that assistive tools were not provided in some polling units, and in other polling units, persons with disabilities were not allowed to enjoy priority voting. So, if not addressed, these can strengthen the already existing voter apathy among the community of persons with disabilities. Just to let you know that this program is audience participatory, and we are also streaming live on our social media handles on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course on Instagram at TAP Africa. Once again, welcome to the program. Let's welcome our guest. Good evening, sir. Good to have you on the program today.
Good evening, Jennifer, and good evening, listeners.
Yes, Mr. George, thanks for joining us today.
Good evening, listeners, and good evening, Jennifer.
All right, let's talk about the election that happened last week. What's your opinion of the process in the just concluded presidential and national assembly election? Let's start with Mr. Jake.
You know, I always like to look ahead and leave what has happened behind. It wasn't as in, let me be focused. And of course, you know, our area is inclusivity. It wasn't as inclusive as we expected, but I would focus on what should be done, what I make must do in the forthcoming gubernatorial and state house assembly election, so that we can achieve an inclusive outcome, which is what we have always looked forward to. And also to say that we have a breaking news. At least our Observers app is now available on iOS platform. Those using iPhone and all that can access it. And of course, Google Play. And it's important because even if you're not our observer, you can get information about what is happening in the world of inclusion as it relates to the forthcoming gubernatorial election. This past election didn't meet our expectation in terms of inclusivity. But I think there are a lot of lessons that INEC needs to learn. You know, if you ask me if I'm Professor Mahmood, I will be looking forward to setting up an inquiry to find out what exactly happened. In some of the things that they said that they are going to do that was not done. One of them was the uploading of the result, what actually happened, you know, and of course some logistical challenges, you know, what is it that happened and what is it that we can do to avoid those things happening. And of course, the opportunity now presents itself for those who are aggrieved to go to court. And we shouldn't totally dismiss the judiciary. They can be the last hope of justice seekers. And I don't see any reason why they should, anyone should doubt that the judiciary will do their job. I am very positive that those, whether it's the winner or the loser, will get justice. You know, and of course, Jennifer, you know, my interest has never been who wins. My interest is in the process that leads to whoever wins. You know, I'm a political and I remain a
You
political.
actually said that during the collation, in the collation center at Abuja International Conference Center. Well, Mr. Jake, thank you so much for what you said, and I'm sincerely grateful that you actually put the disability community, in focus in all of this. But I want us to really talk about the participation of persons with disabilities. What is your assessment in the participation? Did they come out en masse to vote? Were they given priority voting?
I think my colleague will speak more to that because
Okay.
they were consistently on the system monitoring the development. But from the feelers I got from the technology we deployed and the people that called me, persons with disability that called me and gave me eyewitness account of what happened. The provisions, there were some places where the priority voting, and there were some places there were not. There were some places where they saw skeletal deployment of assistive material, and many other places they were not. And I can tell you why. One of the reasons was the moment there was that delay in INEC getting to the polling unit and starting on time, and the crowd surging. This was going to be one election that we would have had a lot of electorate voting. And so that delay in starting on time increased the crowd. And wherever there is such surge of crowd, persons with disabilities suffers the most because, of course, I won't put myself.
But this, I don't think this is the first time it's happening. It's something that has been happening over the years. Just that persons with disabilities were bad, like you said. But for future references, what should be done in scenarios like this?
I think not even too much of a future. Next week,
Yes.
well, INEC needs to retool her deployment strategy,
Okay.
logistic. If you ask me, the bane of the trouble uh, around this election started with logistic issues. That was the beginning. You know, they need to get it right. I don't know whether it would be too late to engage professional logistics organization. I don't want to mention them because it will be commercial, but there are logistic organizations that have that local and international experience that could pick up things and deliver it on time. Uh, the issue of either ad hoc staff or main staff of INEC getting to the polling unit on time. Some of them did, only for them to either not see the material to work with. Other times you find out that the security that would give them cover was not there. And the person will tell you, I can't start anything without the security personnel, you know. So there's the issue of logistics that needs to be fixed. There are issues of security that needs to be fixed. There's the issue of deployment of material that needs to be fixed, you know. And of course, the fourth factor is communication, you know. And I think one area that was not effectively handled was communication, timely communication. If something is going wrong, some people will say, well, it's not everything you say. In moment like this, what helps you is transparency. Be honest, be straightforward, and I still insist, despite all of the issues, they are they are fine gentlemen in INEC who truly wanted to do what is right. Only God knows what went wrong,
All right.
including Professor Mahmoud. I believe he's honest. In my good intention, what happened between him and his people in the field, only God knows.
Well, based on what he promised, that was what he promised us, a free and fair election. All right, let's talk about the participation of persons with disabilities now, Mr. George. What's your assessment?
Okay, so we did quite a lot of effort in mobilizing persons with disabilities in terms of voter education for the partition. Last year, you remember that our able to vote campaign across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria went round to sensitize persons with disability, and they turned out for the elections. They came all out to participate, but there was a challenge, just like our CEO has already said. The challenges that came along with the elections affected them. Now, for example, INEC promised that they will provide 21,165 magnifying glasses at 16,071 polling units across the nation.
How many were provided?
I'll come to that. So they also promised to provide posters at 5,085 polling units. They also promised to provide 8,117 braille ballot guide at 5,957 polling units for persons with visual impairment. They also promised priority voting. In fact, this is part of the act in section 54, subsection 1 and 2 of the Electoral Act 2022. Persons with disabilities are supposed to be given priority when it comes to voting.
Okay.
Now, let me give you an example. At Karomajigi, here in the FCT, that's Gwarimpa Ward, a disabled community polling unit, that's what it is called. I don't mean to call disabled, but that's the name of the polling unit there. There was no priority voting from the data we got from our observers.
Okay, we'll be delving more into that. If you just joined us, the program is Disability Inclusion on Network Service of Radio Nigeria, and we are taking a look at the presidential election 2023, the participation of persons with disabilities, the challenges they faced, and some recommendations that our guests have for us. But we'll be introducing someone. He is a consultant, Staff Africa consultant, and we hate to
let go, Jake.
Let go of Jake in the studio, but we'd like to hear from you. Just
well, Jennifer, I wanted to just add voice to what my colleague was saying, and to be specific. The data he's reading and the information that we're working is only based on the CVR exercise. It's very important to say that, because what we are presenting is what's specific to the polling units that we knew that INEC deployed or was supposed to deploy assistive material. That it is not cut across the entire country, even though we deployed about 700 observers, but that's not even enough to cover the entire country. So we're being specific and focusing on where we know that there are clusters of persons with disability. That's the information, and that's our focus.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mr. J. Thank you so much. You're right, it's still Disability Inclusion on the Network Service of Radio Nigeria. We're going for some music break. But in the meantime, stay with us. Remember, it's audience participatory, and we need to hear from you on the program today. Don't move from us.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So are you going?
Philip.
Exactly, with Hausa touch of Hausa.
with our in-law.
Girlfriend.
Is there news? Is there news?
Excuse me, madam.
Are you ready?
Is there news? I want to
Yes, there is news.
also the provision of some of these assistive devices. But I'd like to pose this question now to Mr. Philip. What mechanism did TAP Africa use in receiving real-time data from the observers deployed in polling units with registered persons with disabilities?
All right. So at the beginning of the project, staff thought it wise that it was good we had a system that enabled real-time submission of data from polling units. And to achieve that, staff came up with a set of questionnaires. There were targeted, they had questions to seek answers regarding critical areas that staff was interested in. So the questionnaires ask questions like um, was INEC at the polling unit before 9:30 a.m. You know, at what time did INEC officials arrive? You know, or was there a case of harassment of persons with disability? So there are a lot of that, and they were split into. I won't go into the entire methodology because it's a bit probably too tough. But you know, those questionnaires were designed and orchestrated in a manner that allowed to target key areas of assessment for the election. So what we did was to take that data and those questionnaires and turn them into a digital format, and then using built a mobile app to accommodate all of those questions, you know, and since staff was already working with observers, you know, we had to build the app in a way that it could allow observers log in, download from the Play stores, you know. In fact, we're so lucky that before the election was up, Google had already approved the app on the store, so they could download it from the Google Play Store. And observers from all over the country downloaded the app, they logged in, and they were able to provide us information. So they transmitted those information through the internet. So they had internet connectivity. They could send it immediately in real time. So we had a situation room also that provided dashboards for different stages of the election. So we had an opening dashboard, the dashboard that showed information for activities at the opening of the polling unit. You know, what time did INEC staff or arrive?
Okay, now sorry to cut you. I would just for the purpose of the knowledge of knowing now,
Yeah.
if I can say that, and for those listening, what was the purpose of the questionnaire? Putting it in the app, accessibility. And what's the purpose of the questionnaire? How do you think it will help persons with disabilities now in subsequent elections?
Okay, so there are a lot of data we've captured that have previously not been captured.
Okay.
You know, we now know the failings on the part of INEC. We know where to assist them as a civil society group.
Okay.
So in subsequent election, those data can be presented as basis for which INEC should make improvement to their existing processes.
Okay.
You know, so it goes a long way to support persons with disability. INEC makes improvement to their own processes. Persons inclusion becomes much more accessible to persons with disabilities. You understand? So the app was not just built for app's sake. We could as well, and TAP has been doing questionnaires. This was not the first time TAP designed methodologies to capture.
Okay, but this time around,
but this time it was important that
Yeah.
we got them in real time.
Okay.
And relying on third-party tools was going to make the process. If you used a tool like maybe JotForm or Google Forms or Microsoft Form, being able to run real-time analysis on those data that were coming in real time was going to be really difficult. So we had to build a custom-made solution that was able to connect to the mobile app, get those information as they came, and also the mobile app, beyond allowing people submit in real time, it could also store the submissions on the device for places where there was no internet connectivity. So those could come later. But while election was ongoing, we are still able to get information, and then we can also support decision makers at that time as we get our data fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Civil Disability Inclusion Universal Service operating in Nigeria, you can start making your contribution to the program. We are streaming on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. attack ability. Were there any complaints from them? Let us know. The program is inclusion on the network service of Radio Nigeria 0705 149 3324 or 0915 0910482. We're going on another short break. When we come back, the program continues. To stay with us.
The community of persons with disabilities is set to participate in the 2023 general elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission, in partnership with Star Africa, is ready to drive inclusion of persons with disabilities in the electoral process. Different disability persons will have access to various assistive electoral materials and classes for persons with disabilities.
This gives us system that
Natural activity. Election
Describe everything about that. Describe everything about that. So
Jennifer, is to describe the features of the app.
What?
Or let's say they should describe the features of the app. So maybe that's the line.
Okay, when we come back,
But Jennifer, I don't know if you know.
What's the new? It is observers have.
There's some other stuff. But then there's a dashboard that's available on electionhub.com.ng.
Okay, give us that information.
Yeah.
So how was he able to get it, the app on his app store?
It's the same way anybody who has an iPhone can get it currently. So there's something Apple provides.
So it's not like he's already on the app store.
It's not on the store. It's
Like,
not on the
wait,
store.
so how?
You know,
as an iPhone
he
user, how
gets
would I get
information before us. He gets information before us because he's the account owner. So let me check. It's possible he knows something I don't know.
Please check. Because you really spoke like you saw something.
It's just that he has the app on his own phone. So if you have an iPhone right now, you can download Test Flight.
Just an iPhone, right?
No, this is not an iPhone. No, an Apple will just I tried it.
But this senior boy's phone. Samsung.
No, it's not. Samsung is available for everybody, regardless of how much you want to spend. Even if it's 70K, you can
Not the one that snaps picture like the iTel. I mean, the Intel. Mr. John, honestly, I think no teeth. You know whether you come out to say, I like, we don't tell us your office government. Don't tell us your office government. Most of the country. Don't tell us that rats or any animal accumulate the office. Follow the evidence.
Alright, it's still Disability Inclusion and Network Service of Radio Nigeria, and we're talking about the just concluded presidential and national assembly election, and of course, the participation of persons with disabilities. Where we are right now, where we are coming from, and of course, where we are looking forward to. That's what we are focusing on today's program. And one of our top achievements is the initiation of the Observers app. So back in the day when disability inclusion radio program began, we usually talk about the statistics of persons with disabilities, how we are able to analyze their participation during election, if there was a data now about persons with disabilities in every sphere of our society. But we are glad that the Observers app is right here with us, where we can actually view the progress of persons with disabilities. Just go there. The information is accessible, and of course, you can make your observation and see where we are coming from and see our level of progress. I'm so happy for this, Mr. Philip, but I really want you to talk more about the app, including its features, how it can be used. Just reiterate the purpose and everything generally about the Observers app.
Okay, so what most people may not know is that the app is available for public use.
Okay.
So anybody with a smartphone can go to their app store. If you're on Android, you can go to the Google Play Store. If you're on iOS, on iPhone, you can go to the Apple App Store and you search for TAF Election Observer.
Tap election observer.
So you find the app there, you can download it to your device. So even without being a registered observer, there are still functionalities on the app that are available to you. for instance, the eyewitness report. Anybody within the country can submit eyewitness reports. You are at a polling unit and something is going on. We've designed an eyewitness report feature that allows anybody to be able to tell us their polling unit they're reporting from and give us video feedback or images, and then also add text description for all that information. During the just completed election, up to 40% of the polling units we observed had eyewitness reports coming together with the observer reports we got also. And we're expecting that much more eyewitness reports will be submitted by citizens across. And we had not even made the app popular. This is the first time we're having a program like this to talk about the app being available. So it's not just observers who are registered with INEC and with TAF, but observers, of course, anybody who is at any polling unit can, of course, be an eyewitness for us. But the eyewitness report is just one feature. So there are additional functionalities that you cannot access if you're not a registered observer, and that's why we think that more volunteers should actually reach
And
out.
I was about to ask you, what will it take to be a registered observer?
Okay, I'll let my colleagues talk about that.
Okay,
I'll
I'm
check that.
listening.
So he'll give you a guide as to how to come in as an observer.
Okay, I think you should
Okay.
say it now. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, we have our own official observers accredited by INEC, because of course specific polling units with persons with disability based on data from INEC. Polling units with persons with disabilities are selected polling units for our observation. But of course,
There are a lot of them actually.
there are a lot of them, so we have to just choose from there, select among them from those with higher number of persons with disabilities based on the data to deploy observers there. But of course, any other citizen, especially persons with disabilities and disability advocates. In fact, I need to really make this announcement with a loud voice. We really need citizens to come in, to observe whatever it is that is happening. Like Philip have said earlier, the eyewitness component or feature of the app is very easy to use, very, very user friendly. All you need to do is once you go to the app, you click on the app. Once it opens, you click on eyewitness report. The button is there, white in color. The other one for election observation, for election observers, official election observer, is green in color. But the other button, eyewitness, you will see with the symbol of an eye. Once you click there, you just enter. And of course, the subject you want to report, and harassment, whether it is ballot box snatching, whether it is other things you want to report that may not be captured here. And then of course your polling unit, the word, everything you will enter, even your name, you enter your detail. Once you enter your detail, you write your report about what you have seen with your eyes. And we're not talking about hearsay, we're talking about what you see. That's what it's called eyewitness. What you see with your eyes, whether it's an harassment, whatever it is, take a shot or a video, and then you attach and upload it, and then we receive it from the back end at the dashboard. We see all of that. That's the report we hear him saying about 40% eyewitness report we got from the field. So it's very easy. I really want Nigerians to take advantage of that, so that where we cannot reach, we have Nigerians there giving us reports from the field. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cliff, you have any additional information concerning the app?
Yes. So where the core features were built in is for observers themselves. So observers have access to three different kinds of forms once they're logged in, and those forms correspond to the three activities of the election that we're monitoring. So there are the opening activities, which includes arrival of voting materials, arrival of security personnel, setup of the location, the serenity and the accessibility of those locations, and also the amenities that will be provided by INEC. Then the second form is regarding the voting and accreditation process. So we want to see how the beavers perform in your location. And in fact, we've captured so much data on beavers and its performance during the election. In fact, we noticed from the last, from just completed presidential and national assembly elections, that beavers failed in about 35% of the polling units that we observed. So we have that data submitted by our observers. So that's on the voting and accreditation part of the forms we have available on the app. Then we have the closing form, which observers submit at the point of vote counting and closure of their election activities at the polling unit. So, but beyond the forms, observers are also able to send us something called real-time video feeds. So if you have stable network connection, you can use from the Observer app, you can enable the real-time video feed, and we can also connect to you from the situation room, and you can give us if there's any special activity going on and you want us to observe in real time, you can send that to us through video and we talk as though we're in a video conferencing situation. So the mobile app and the dashboard cooperate together to make that happen. Then we are also able to support observers who are in locations without internet connectivity. So there are forms which have been submitted, whether it's the opening form, the voter accreditation, or the closing form. They can store that locally on the device, and then once they're in a place with internet connectivity, it automatically uploads to us, or they can still do it manually, whichever comes first. So those are some of the functionalities that the app has. It's a very easy tool to use. Anybody who has ever used a text messaging app on their phones should be able to use the tool we built for observers.
Okay, is it disability friendly?
Oh yes, it's
Okay.
disability friendly. The app support all the accessibility features that are natively available on your device. We integrated with those and you can use them.
Okay, I think that's the most important thing. Well, moving on the program Disability Inclusion, we now bring you another segment where we let you know what the 2018 Disability Act contains. So, according to the 2018 Disability Act, adherence to the building code is the ultimate way of designing a disability friendly building. So, however, there are a few basic items that buildings must have to be disability friendly. Number one is ramps, steps, and lifts. So once a building has multiple floors, a lift is always required for persons with disabilities, as most can't use the staircases effectively. So often ramps are provided as alternatives. Where this is done, the angle of inclination must not be steeper than 1.20 and 1 by 20, and where this can't be achieved, a suitable ratio should be used. Within floors, the use of steps should be discouraged as these can cause tipping and accidents. Alternatively, gentle ramps should be used instead of steps. Number two is corridors and doors. All corridors within the building should be correctly designed to cater to the wheelchair user and they shouldn't be obstructed. Internal doors also should be wide enough for everyone and be left open if possible. Where this can't be done, the doors should be designed to open easily. Auto doors may be recommended. And the star of the week is Stanley Oil. Alright, the star of the week is Stanley Oyo, and it's still disability inclusion on the network service of Radio Nigeria. We have our guest in the studio, the Assistant Program Manager George Awai and TAF Africa consultant Mr. Philip. So far, they've been talking to us, especially about the TAF Election Observers app, and it's an app that you must have amongst other apps in your phone, and we want you to download it. But in the meantime, we'd like to hear from you before we wrap up. The phone lines are still open for you to make your call and contribute to the program. We're also streaming on Facebook at TAF Africa. Now, let's get to hear more about our star of the week, Stanley Oil. Just stay with us.
Stanley Oyo, a physically challenged artist and businessman, committed himself to breaking the glass ceiling despite the social barriers faced by persons with disabilities. Oyo, a graduate of Fine and Applied Arts, started a graphics design and printing business in 2014, which has blossomed to the point of making him an employer of labor. Like many other persons with disabilities, Oyo has been body shamed, but he says he draws strength from such attacks rather than slump into self-pity. He said running his business has been difficult because the Nigerian system does not favor people living with disabilities. According to him, we should stop assuming that we understand their needs. Rather, we must involve them in the discourse, ensuring they are leading and driving the conversation from top to bottom.
And that's it on for our star of the week, Stanley Oil. So inspiring. We really like to come up with these segments to inspire you, especially persons with disabilities, and let you know that there is absolutely nothing you can't achieve. Now, let's focus more on the previous election that happened last week, Saturday. Mr. George, what do you think INEC could have done better to foster a person with disability inclusive process?
All right, so like you said, the last election, the presidential and national assembly elections, had came with a lot of challenges, and one of it was a report we got from the field from Gwale local government area, Disu ward, uh, uh, primary school, that's primary school, two polling units. Two visually impaired persons came to vote, but because of delay in arrival of INEC officials, they stayed too long and had to go back home. Now, these are the challenges persons with disabilities face. That is why, Philip was explaining about the time of arrival of the INEC officials. That will hamper or affect the participation of persons with disabilities. You know, there are particular challenges. Like persons with autism may not be able to stay under the sun for too long. So where there are delays, it affects persons with disability, and they may not want to come back again. When you call them for another, that's a challenge. So INEC really needs to do more. Sincerely, INEC must have tried their best or whatever it is, but what we
They
see.
absolutely didn't have persons with disabilities in mind.
So, because the truth of the matter is they promised all of these things, but, like the late arrival affected person with disability generally everywhere you turn. And then again, the provision of the assistive devices we talk about, it was too low compared to the number of persons with disabilities who turn out for the elections, and it is very discouraging. I feel strongly for INEC to redeem its image. I think INEC need to come out clean and make apologize to persons with disabilities and Nigerians in general about the challenges we witness in the field. We have observers in the field who are reporting what is happening real time. Like you can see from the app, it is real time to see what is happening. So a lot of things have marked these elections, a lot of challenges in terms of late arrival, in terms of provision of assistive devices, in terms of in terms of priority voting. We expect that INEC official will have been trained to understand that disability inclusion is very, very key, and that the law, the act provides for priority voting. So it's important that INEC come out, apologize to persons with disabilities and Nigerians, and then make a commitment, especially as we are approaching the gubernatorial elections and the House of Assembly.
Okay, please let's have our first caller on the program. Hello, good evening. Happy weekend to you, Chief Fidel. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much, Chief Fidel. He said he'd like us to talk more about the essence of the app, and he's asking if it's ability friendly. Our guests have read it. Basically, just reiterate on everything he said. I think that question will go to Mr. Philip.
All right. So the app itself is disability friendly, but there are certain disabilities that we cannot capture. For example, people who are completely blind would not be able to see pictures on
Okay,
mobile
but they are
devices.
like they are smartphones that
Yeah.
could actually
Read
yeah,
out
read
what's on
out
this
yes
context
what's
menu. So if
exactly.
you've already set up text to speech screen readers on your device and you open the app, you will be able to get all of those accessibilities.
Okay.
So the app can read back to you what you're looking at, and if when you make input to submit a form, you are also able to do that. But the app is not just targeted at persons with disability only. We also make it available to people who are also able-bodied, that they can still use the app and report on behalf of persons with disability. So there are many other metrics that the app is capturing. Of course, disability is the focus of the project, but we still want that every citizen in the country should pay attention to what the app is able to do. They can also be so the area of disability that we're able to support the native operating systems, Google and iOS devices support, the app is able to leverage those accessibility functionalities and make anybody who have those accessibility features enabled on their phones to be able to use the app.
Okay, so again, what are we hoping to achieve from this app?
So what we are hoping to achieve is to capture data. We don't want to say, INEC do this. We don't want to say, oh, we want this, we want this, we want. We want to say, okay, INEC see. An example, we're looking at a dashboard right now, right? This is the voting dashboard, right? And we see in 10% of only 10% of the polling unit that we observed were the places where we had people with disability were able to vote. 10%. That is very low.
Very low.
Very low. So it's and a lot of people reported that people with disability either couldn't vote or had to leave early. So if we don't have this data, nobody reports this to us, how do we hold decision makers to account? We can't interest in whatever. Yeah, we do have interest, but the interest is to see that persons with disability are included in the electoral process. So this is really important. If you don't give us this data, we can't be everywhere. So we need Nigerians to join hands on deck with us to see that they submit. And the more of it we have, the more we're able to make predictions and to also support these decision makers to do better in government elections.
Okay.
And maybe before we go further, I also want to let Nigerians know that TAF did not just build a tool for themselves or for Nigerians. We also built a tool that helped INEC distribute assistive devices. So before we even rolled out the app, we had worked with INEC to get certain data from the voter register that they've been capturing since the continuous voter registration started. So INEC has been keeping track of different kinds of disabilities, but they did not have a tool that enabled them properly visualize how to distribute materials based on that data. So we worked with the IT department to get that data out and to also provide a dashboard that allowed them to know which polling unit needed what. So if you go to electionhub.org.ng right now, you will see a dashboard, a PWD dashboard. If you go to the voter section, you will see the map of Nigeria. And any state you go to, for instance, if you go to Kaduna, you would know the total persons with disability in that state. You would also know how that disability is distributed. You can see that 1,520 persons have albinism. And if you go to a local government, let's say for instance, we'll go to Kaduna North local government, we can see that also the total persons with disability who are in that local government, 210. So INEC should have known that 210 persons would have disability and they need support. And it doesn't just tell you the total disability. We know that physical impediment is 29, Down syndrome is 3, deafness is 20, and so on. So that information is available. TAF built this tool based on the data, also made it available.
Okay, we are running out of time, but I know that TAF Africa is recently working with National Population Commission. Do you think this will go a long way in creating a synergy, in bringing up data and statistics of persons with disabilities?
Absolutely. The tech ecosystem in in Nigeria is still developing and is evolving in the right direction. So of course, what TAF has done with INEC is a step in the right direction, and no data is useless. Every metric and every data point that NPC captures during this upcoming census will be really important. So TAF in the future will be really available to help work with them to also build tools like this that Nigerians can use to make informed decisions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip Iyesi Ulo, the TAP Africa consultant. You really said a lot, and I'm sure we are definitely downloading this app immediately after the program. All right, let's get to our other guest, Mr. George. Let's talk about the upcoming gubernatorial and state assembly election. What is TAP Africa's plan? What are we looking forward to?
Yeah, so of course, lessons learned from the presidential National Assembly elections. We are still deploying our observers who have been trained, and but of course, this time we are deploying not less than 300 observers in the field to observe the gubernatorial elections. By that time, we expect to see improvement from INEC in terms of assistive devices and in terms of arrival. We don't want to hear about lateness again. At least we are reporting this now. INEC is aware that we have challenges with late arrival. So please, this time around, we really need INEC to pay attention, listen to the cry of people, and ensure that INEC officials arrive at polling units at the right time. And again, I expect that INEC officials have been duly trained on assisting persons with disability when it comes to election. In terms of priority voting, like the reports we are getting from the field, we don't want to hear that again in the gubernatorial elections. INEC really need to up their game in terms of priority voting.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. George. We sincerely appreciate you for coming to the program today. All right, that's all we have for you on the program Disability Inclusion, which came to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria. For more information on the activities of TAF Africa, visit our website at www.alwinofoundation.org www.tafafrica.org. That's the new website, www.tafafrica.org. Or you can send your messages to 0703 110 3773, 0703 110 3773, or 0701 977 Special appreciation to all of our guests. The studio manager has been Mahmoud Yakubu. This program is brought to you by TAP Africa and funded by the European Union through its support to democratic governance in Nigeria program. The engineers on duty were led by Muko Adefemi and Farouk Shaibu. Many thanks. Special thanks to the producer Stephen Isapu. Until next time, my name is Jennifer Oko. Bye.
The community of persons with disabilities is set to
We need to correct the website. Even though I didn't like this video, you know that this program is supported. You know that this program is brought to you by Abino Foundation. And yes, I have it here. I'll show you. I had to start on just that and that was
You said no. In fact, I was going to ask, is this